Hi, this is a video all about setting limits on your novel. And this may seem like a strange idea at first. You may think, why would I put limits on a novel at all? I think that we sometimes have this idea as writers that a novel, a good novel, is some massive project that has endless different characters and POVs and takes place over decades, and that's the kind of real novel that we all need to write. And then maybe we picture some kind of massive experimental work like Infinite Jest or Ulysses or Gravity's Rainbow. But in most art forms, most arts things, most art products benefit from limits. And most artists, working artists, will say that their work gets better the more limits they put on it. I also believe, I've learned this through painful experience, that the worst thing in an artistic project is not finishing. I think that a lot of us artists, writers, whatever you want to call us, we picture all kinds of crazy things that could go wrong. Like you're at an event giving a speech to 1,000 people and someone stands up and says, oh, you got a detail wrong about shoes in the 18th century. And we picture all this stuff, we worry about it, but what we don't worry about is the more serious problem, which is not finishing. And so what I encourage all writers to do is to look hard at your novel project and try to make your novel a little more limited, a little more focused. It'll make it easier to write, easier to finish, and it'll probably make a reader enjoy it a lot more. Okay, that's the idea. So the technique that I'm going to explain in this video is called the rule of 5 ones. Now, I didn't invent the idea of 5 ones, but I read about it or heard about an amazing podcast about business, but I've applied the idea to novel writing, the idea of having 5 limits on your work. And the 5 ones are these. The premise goes like this: a simple, easy to write, but very enjoyable to read, and perfectly profound and complex novel has 5 ones. The 5 ones are 1 protagonist, 1 setting, 1 continuous time period, 1 central desire, and 1 mystery. So that's the idea. If you want to write a relatively simple, it's still not going to be easy, but a relatively simple, relatively easy to finish novel, you should aim for your novel to have 5 ones. Let me go through them quickly. So, 1 protagonist, 1 main character who we follow through the story. That's probably the easiest one to explain. So we don't have multiple characters, we're not shifting in and out. Now maybe you have an omniscient narrator who occasionally kind of like drops hints about what's coming, or you've got the protagonist kind of looking back from the future, giving little clues about, oh, if only I'd realized back in the day, whatever. But we're not shifting POV from multiple different people. We've just got 1 Harry Potter or whatever. 2, 1 setting. So here, in the setting, we're not jumping around, we're not going from Los Angeles to Thailand to 18th century, England. We're just really focusing on 1 setting. Now, of course, the characters can go off for a little weekend somewhere and have fun and, do whatever they want to do at the beach. But the primary idea is we're not showing a character starting off in London and halfway through the novel, she moves to Thailand. That's not the idea. We're going to focus on 1 principal setting. 1 continuous time period, that's the next one. This is a little more difficult to grasp, but the basic idea is the events of your novel should ideally take place over a continuous short time period, like a month or a season at most. You should never find yourself writing in a novel 2 weeks later. If you do that, then you can't qualify for the 1. You have more than 1 continuous time period. And this can be a little tricky. So if you find yourself jumping in time, jumping in different time periods, then this is not really qualifying for the 1. The 1 is a continuous time period that takes place over a summer. Say The Great Gatsby. It takes place over a single summer. Now, obviously, you can have a narrator commenting about the past, the future. You could have a prologue, you could have an epilogue. That's not really what I'm talking about here. I'm saying that the central, events of your film, of your book, what I was trying to say is, if you're going to turn it into a film, the actual sort of shooting of the action of the story would take place over a single season. People would not need to buy new clothes because the weather had changed. That's what I'm talking about. And you can have all kinds of additional stuff around the periphery, but the central action is 1 time period. Okay. Next one desire. This maybe sounds really obvious, but what it means is your character should want one principal thing, and they pursue that thing through the novel. So for instance, if you have a novel where your character is traveling in Thailand with her husband, and then they break up, and she decides to stay in Chiang Mai, and she has to look for an apartment, and then once she's got her apartment, she discovers that there's some crime bosses who are trying to get involved in the leatherworking industry connected to tourism. That doesn't qualify for the one, because at different stages she wants completely different things. When she's trying to look for an apartment to stay in Chiang Mai, she doesn't know anything about these crime bosses, and you know, and then when she finds the crime bosses, well, she doesn't want the apartment anymore because she's already got it. So we're trying to create a situation where we can tell a story about someone who just wants one thing for the entire novel. And so, generally speaking, this means starting later. So we meet the character after she's broken up with her husband, after she's found an apartment, and she's starting to learn how to make leather bags in Chiang Mai, and only then, that's like page 1, and she starts to realize that there are these strange criminals around, and she starts to investigate them. Okay, so one desire. And the last one is one mystery. So there's some kind of puzzle here, there's some kind of paradox, or there's something interesting to learn about Thai culture, but there's not a dozen things. It's not like we're also going to learn about the tarot, or we're also going to learn you know, about how the mob in America work. We're just going to learn about one central mystery. Okay, so the basic idea of this, that's the technique, 5 ones. Okay, and it's just a guideline. You know, if you've read a book that doesn't follow this, great, and you liked it, don't worry about it, but it's a guideline for the aspiring writer to get your first novel out there and done. Okay, now another way of looking at this is this: the 5 ones, if you have a novel of 5 ones, it's likely to be under 300 pages long, because you don't have that much to cover. You've got one central mystery, character trying to do something in one place and one time. You know, it's probably going to be under 300 pages. But it's easy to imagine a perfectly good novel that's still doable with those 4 ones. So maybe you've got 2 characters in Thailand trying to investigate this criminal conspiracy around leatherworking. Okay? That's 4 ones, because you've got 2 protagonists, but they all want the same thing in the same setting at the same period of time. That's fine. Another kind of 4 ones would be, you know, one protagonist trying to do one thing with one mystery, but it's over a long period of his life, and so we meet him multiple times. That would be 4 ones, and I think a novel of 4 ones is perfectly fine. It might well be over 300 pages by the end, but it's doable. I would suggest that once you get to 3 ones, if you think, I'm writing a 3 ones or a 2 ones book, or a, I don't know, ones book, that really you're looking at a book that's well over 500-600 pages. You know, you're looking at a really massive book. And my suggestion is to you, if you want to write the book and you've been writing the book and it's going well, brilliant, go for it. But you've got to understand that this is the kind of book that's very easy to not finish. And if it's your first book, maybe you don't want to come out the gate trying to write some 1,000-page epic. Is there a simpler version of your story that you can pull apart all the different parts of your story? Is there a simpler version that you could tell that fits the 5-1 rule? That's my suggestion. What do you think about this idea? Let me know, and I hope it's helpful for your writing.